wind. You can't see it, but you can feel it and watch things change as it touches the world around you. It can bring a sense of urgency or warning of things to come, or it can be a gentle breeze that helps blow away the stress and cares of a hectic day. With Kinetic Woodwinds, Kirk once again harnesses the power of motion and pairs it with beautifully captured performances. So come with me now as we get swept away with Kirk Hunter's Kinetic Woodwinds. Hey, this is Simeon, and I'm so happy to be able to introduce to you the latest addition to the Kinetic Orchestra, Kinetic Woodwinds. So we started with kinetic strings, and then kinetic brass came along. And now with Kinetic Woodwinds, the orchestra is a little more complete. So let's take a closer look at Kinetic Woodwinds and find out what makes it so special. So let's dive in. Okay, so the first thing that you need to know is that Kinetic Woodwinds runs in the full version of Kontakt. And so what we can do is that we need to open up the browser. So you go and find your folder where you installed the instrument, and then you go to the instruments, and then I see Kinetic Woodwinds there. I'm just going to drag it over, get that loaded into Kontakt. The first thing I like to do, I always like to start with Superman on these. So let's just take a quick listen to what's going on. You'll notice that Superman is also in the other kinetic instruments. So you have 40 different what's called perpetual motion presets that are shared between all the libraries. So it kind of gives you a good starting point. So we've got 4 timelines. We've got flutes, oboes, clarinets, and bassoons in Kinetic Woodwinds. And with each timeline, you're going to see 64 steps. And in the case of Superman, you have 4 different sections, and it's cycling through the whole thing. And you can see that as the pattern's going, I can play over top of that. And so each step is on and off. So let's say if I want to, if I want to change a step or add a step, I just need to go ahead and click on one of these cells, and I can mouse up and drag over and just kind of paint through the different steps, or I can go to the bottom and mouse down and just kind of paint over that. And then if I want individual steps, I can just mouse up with that. Just take that mouse and just kind of pull it up there. Yeah, so that makes it really interesting. And let's say you just want to play the first section here and just only use one section. Well, you can turn off this cycling icon and watch what happens now. Only the first pattern will play in the flute section, but you see it'll continue on going with the other ones. It's broken down into 4 different sections, so you can drag these little marker flags and designate the length of the section, and you can actually overlap the parts. You're just given all this flexibility here. And if you look real close at the display on part 1, you can actually see the number of steps indicated as well. So that's really kind of cool. So when we were talking about the timelines, the regions have a really interesting behavior. So I've got Captain America pulled up. So let's take a quick listen to that. And see, I'm just holding, just hitting the notes all at the same time. And so you can see that the timeline just kind of rolls with it when I'm holding the notes down. But watch what happens when I'm holding a chord, let's say up in the flutes, and I add a different note. So I'm going to play a new note. So this is cruising along. Okay, so I'm going to play it up here. So you can see the notes that I'm holding down, the timeline just continues to move. But anytime I hit a new note, it always is going to start at the beginning of that particular region. So one of the other things about the patterns is that we have control over how tight the steps are or how loose it is. So let's say the oboe, we've got this oboe pattern here. I'm going to solo that. So we've got a solo and mute for each section of the timeline. So because these are really close together, sometimes it gets a little blurred. So we've got this tighten and broaden, and it's all the way over to tighten. So that means the length of the notes are shorter, so it separates them a little bit, especially when they're close together like this. So now let's go and broaden it. So when we pull it all the way over to broaden, the notes are even blurred a little bit more. So in a case like this, we want it to be tight. So we want every note to kind of have a little separation with it. While we're here, we can see that we also have accents. So we've got a subtle accent on fourth beat, the fourth slot. And then we can do it every 2 beats, every 3 beats, every 6. And then we can say, let's make it dramatic, or a moderate, little middle of the road, or just a subtle accent. So that just kind of helps give you a little more human feel to it, I guess. And let's just do dramatic, and let's take a listen to that. It just kind of gives a little subtle accent, or a dramatic accent, or yeah. You can just hear that change a little bit. We can do that for the whole section here. We can tighten and broaden the whole, all the timelines at once. This top section here just gives you global controls. We can just change all the timelines at once by using the controls up here. Everybody likes to roll the dice sometimes, and so this is kind of a fun way to spark a little inspiration and ideas. So we've got Captain America loaded. So let's hit this top dice here and see what happens. Okay, so just little happy accidents sometimes. And let's say you just want to randomize just one of the sections, one of the timelines. Well, you've got individual dice here as well. Let's just hit the dice on the bassoons. Yeah. That's fun. And let's say you want to save that. So what we would do is that we would open the snapshot menu and to save that, because you can't actually save anything new in the perpetual motion presets. Those are hardwired into the Kinetic engine. So what we want to do is just hit that little camera icon up here, and then we can save this as a snapshot. So we'll hit the floppy disk icon, and it'll bring up this dialog, enter a name for your snapshot. So let's call it Captain America Random 1. Yeah, we can save that. Now when we drop down these the snapshot menu, you can see where I've already kind of saved a couple of other different things here. And we can just build our own library of presets. Kirk was able to capture just such beautiful performances. And, so you can have the engine and all this fancy stuff, but the sounds at the end of the day are what really matter. And Kirk really did a wonderful job capturing these instrument sections, and these woodwinds are just so inspiring to play just on their own. And what we can do, this little flag at the end, it will enable and disable the motion engine. And so we can just kind of play the sounds kind of free without having the animation. Let's see. And what you can do too, you can do the instrument ranges. So we can set, like on the flutes, we can adjust the low range. So yeah, so it's going to stop here at this C3. And then we can restrict the high range. And then, so that is with all of these. So you can see the little diagram there at the bottom, that we can see all of the note ranges for the 4 different sections. Then we can overlap those. We've got the flutes and oboes and clarinets kind of overlapped. And then we get down to the bassoons. That's just huge. That's just huge. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the mixer page. So we've got a lot of controls here over the mic positions, as well as turning on and off the individual sections. So if, let's just say, you want to use flutes and clarinets, well, you can uncheck these boxes down here, and that sort of like purges those samples from memory. And then we've got 3 mic perspectives, like mix perspectives, and we can enable and disable those. We've got EQ over here. We've got velocity variation. So we've got it all the way over to 10. It's going to insert a little bit of different variations in the velocity when we're holding those patterns. Just kind of helps humanize a little bit. And then we can also fine tune our keyboard velocity in relationship to Kinetic Woodwinds as well. So let's just take a look at a couple of these mix presets. So the factory mix has the close mic and far mic. Now this is without any added reverb, so you're just getting the beautiful tone of the hall of the church these instruments were recorded in. And so let's just turn off the far mic and listen to the close mic. And even though they're close, you hear just a little bit of the ambience there, but not too much. And let's just listen to the far mic by itself. And there you can hear the really beautiful ambience of the room. And you can add reverb if you want. I just like the natural tone of the room. It's really nice. And so let's just take a quick look at the mid-mic position. Yeah, I just like the life that's in these sounds. It's just really beautiful. One cool thing is that if, let's go to the bone dry mix. And this is kind of fun. So this is really, really dry. So the sounds are edited, so it just gets really dry and you can add your own reverb to it. So what I want to do real quick, I want to go ahead and assign the added reverb and the room size to a couple MIDI controllers here. So let's just put it at a 48 by 55 room, and then let's adjust that. So this is bone dry. Now let's add some. So that kind of really gives you some nice options for ambiances. The thing I like about using dry samples is that you can put it into different spaces if you have different reverbs, that type of thing. So in the ice cave, now this is kind of cool. So 60 by 25 and the reverb is like 38. So let's listen to that. So you've got a lot of options there with that. So it just sounds beautiful. The room by itself, let's just go back to the factory mix without any added reverb. I think that's what I really like. I like hearing that natural life and not too much reverb sometimes. You just want that little oomph, that little decay just to give that life. So that's really wonderful. One of the other aspects of the timelines is that we can actually go in and select different parts from the perpetual motion presets for each section. So let's just go Superman for flutes and Captain America for oboes, and we can go Syncopate for clarinets and Grumbler for bassoons. So that's kind of cool. And then, like I mentioned before, you can always save any kind of combinations you come up with as a snapshot. So make sure you take advantage of that. So let's listen to what that sounds like. So that just gives you a little more flexibility. The thing is, if you've ever have any questions about any of the controls, there is a really cool eye icon here, information icon. You click that and it brings up a lot of contextual help here. And then as long as you have this selected, when you click on a section or a control, it will bring up some additional information. Let's say you got a really nice pattern that you want to repeat in the other sections. So when you click on one of the sections, this is a 12 beat section in part number 4, we can click this icon here and copy it. And then over here, we can select like the oboes and we can click the paste icon and it'll paste that pattern there. We also have the option to either keep it or undo it. So let's undo it. And that'll be nice. And then we have a really neat little feature that when we click this icon, it will give us some common patterns. And when we click those, it populates through the whole timeline. So I'm going to click on this first pattern here. And you can see that it populates that whole timeline there. And then we can try another one. Yeah, that's really neat. And then this last one. So that's good for starting points. And we can keep that. And let's see what else we've got. And we have transpose. So let's see, we've got Superman again. And I can transpose the flutes. So you can create some really cool atonal stuff, and then you can just transpose all the way up to 12. So it can be 8 VA above the other instruments. He's just given us so much that we can play with here. So one of the cool features about the Kinetic engine itself is that you can record MIDI files, capture MIDI files of the patterns, and then drop them into your DAW so you can use them with other instruments or just kind of edit it even further. So let's take a look at how we can do that. I've got Superman pulled up, and so what we want to do, we want to click this little MIDI icon that's in that top section there. So when we click that, it puts it on standby. It says it's waiting for note input. And, you know, all of the Kinetic engine follows your host tempo. So let's go ahead and play something and capture this. Okay, now when you're done playing, you just click that MIDI icon again, and then now we have a choice to drag and drop, name the MIDI file, or just get out of it. So what we're going to do, we're going to drag and drop this into the MIDI track where Kinetic Woodwinds is present. And so we can see now that we've got a MIDI file. We've got some MIDI data dropped in there. What you got to remember when you're playing back these MIDI files, you want to have the engine disengaged, because if you have the engine okay, so let me show you what happened. So it's going to trigger the engine and play what you recorded. So what we want to do is use this flag at the top to turn off the motion engine to all of the timelines. And now when we play this back, yeah. So that's a very powerful feature. So before I leave today, I want to show you a really cool thing that when we are talking about all of these different kinetic engines and things, I just wanted to see what this would sound like using Kinetic Woodwinds along with the kinetic strings and kinetic brass. So I've got Superman loaded in Kinetic Woodwinds, and RoboCop is in kinetic strings, and then down here we've got Superman in the brass, and I've got the brass muted and strings muted. So let's just kind of hear what's going to happen here. Now let's bring in the strings. Hear those strings just going, and now let's bring in the brass. Having all of those together is just really dramatic. Let's mute the brass. So now we just have the woodwinds and strings. That's amazing. That's amazing. So that is just when you bring this orchestra together, that is just powerful. Just building on each part is just an incredible thing. Okay. You know, Kirk has really put a lot into this, and you know, even to the point where you click on this icon here, that you can assign MIDI controls to just about every parameter to control through MIDI or through MIDI automation. And if you have a controller, fader controller, button controller, you can go through and set this up where you can go through and assign all of these different parameters to even give you more real-time control over this instrument. So we've got some triplets here, and this is kind of an interesting feature. And speaking of MIDI control, let's go ahead and just assign this triplet trigger to CC1, which is the modulation. And so now when I move the mod wheel, you're going to see the triplets light up here. And so we can have, you know, triplets going against the regular beats here. So like in Marcher, let's just try that. And I've got the triplet range. Let's bring the triplet range down. And you do that with this slider down here, down just right above the keyboard. And you can see the threes just kind of coming over. And I'm just going to do it with the flutes. So here we go. Let's engage the triplets. Yeah, that's so cool. And so you can assign that to the mod wheel or any other parameter that you want using this MIDI assignment here. But CC1's kind of convenient for right now. But that is really a cool feature, that you can have all the threes going against the fours and have a lot of fun with that. Okay. Yeah. You see how it gets you going. So that is Kinetic Woodwinds. It, for lack of a better term, it'll blow you away, you know. Thanks for joining me. Make sure you check out all the links in the description. And again, this is Simeon, and I look forward to seeing you next time.